Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I usually render a scene with Path Tracer. In this video I'm going to focus on outdoor scenes, but I'm also going to show you different scenarios. So I'm going to render a day scene, a night scene, and also a snow scene. So I hope you like this video and yeah, enjoy the video. So I already applied all of my materials and now it's time to render the scene. So what I need now, I need to find a good camera perspective that I like. I kind of want something like this, so I go now to media and I create an image. So I want my image to be like this, and I also want a bit of a blur in the front of the image. So I go to camera, depth of field, and I enable depth of field. Then I pick my focus, and I want my focus to be on the back of the image. So what I do now, I change the focal length of the image like this. All right. Then I also check if the scene is parallel. So I click now parallelism. All right, I like this. Now I click again the plus icon and I delete the first image because I don't need this. So and now it's time to go to the environment settings. So my exposure now is set to 1. I change that to 0. So the first thing I like to do is enable an HDRI. So I go down here to an HDRI environment, make sure that you selected the scene you want to render. Then I click enable and then I change to backdrop HDRI. So you see that it looks a bit weird right now. So to change that, I go to details. I click this icon and I click on my ground and now it's gone. And you already see that it's in the background. I rotate the HDRI to find a nice lighting of my scene. Yeah, like this one. It looks a bit weird in the background still. So what I do now, I change the size and the height offset. Yeah, I think that looks better now. What I do now, I go back and I change the intensity. Then I'm also going to look at the sun intensity and I'm going to adapt the sun intensity the way I want it to look like. To look at the scene in the preview version, I like to use it on the medium or low setting. You can also change those settings in your preferences. So for all of my scenes, I usually change the sun intensity, the exposure, and the intensity of the HDRI or the sky dome I use. Sometimes I also change the ambient depending on how many dark places, how many dark pieces I have in my image, and also sometimes I change the white balance if I want it to be more orange or more blue. But that's actually all of my changes I like to do to my scenes. For my camera settings, I usually enable depth of field if I want something blurry in the front of my picture, but I don't enable it all the time. But I do enable parallelism all the time because I like the clear and the parallel look. For my color gradient, I always go down with the saturation and up with the contrast. That's what I do in every scene I render, also when I render with Lumen. And I usually go for 4K, sometimes higher, sometimes I do my own custom size. And then before I render my final image with the highest settings I usually do, I render it with medium settings so that I see the render, the mistake in the render, or if I'm not quite happy with the lighting, that I adapt this before I do the final render, because it usually takes 20 to 30 minutes for my computer to render the final image. So I usually go to medium. I can also change those settings in my preferences and I export the image, and after that I look at the image and be like, okay, that's fine, and then I change it usually to the high settings or a bit higher. So for my night scene, I go back to my environment settings And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to change the HDRI to a sky dome. So I go to my library section and I go to skies and sky dome, and I pick the sky dome I want and I drag it into my scene. Then I'm also going to rotate and change the intensity the way I like. What I'm also going to do, I'm going to enable the horizon. I'm also going to pick one of the pictures. I'm using the countryside, and also I'm going to change the rotation as well. Then I'm also going to decrease the intensity of the sky dome. Then I'm also going down with the exposure a bit, and also I change the white balance a bit. You can also change the sun intensity. That's actually all the settings I change for my night scene. But yeah, that's actually everything I do all the time. I go back and forth, I look at the light, I adapt, and yeah, till I'm satisfied with the scene, and then I render the final scene. So for my winter scene, I changed the weather conditions of my render settings, and I also used some 3D snow assets in my scene. But if you want a tutorial on how I did the winter scene, then please comment down below, and I'm going to do a step-by-step tutorial on how I did the winter scene. But yeah, actually always change the environment settings for my scenes overall. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you learned something, and yeah, I hope I see you in my next video. Bye!